Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Many of us go through our day thinking about how we look, how we present ourselves to the world, but how often do we think about how we present ourselves to Allah? How often do we think about our inner state, the unseen protection that comes with being in a state of purity? Wudu is more than just washing before prayer. It is a shield, a spiritual armor. The Prophet said, "No one guards their wudu except a believer." Ibn Majah. Wudu is purification of the body, the heart, and the soul. It erases sins, brings tranquility, and strengthens our connection with Allah. The angels recognize those who constantly maintain wudu, and the Prophet taught us, "Indeed, my ummah will be called on the day of judgment with bright faces, hands, and feet from the traces of wudu. So whoever among you can lengthen his brightness, let him do so." Bukhari and Muslim. Allah Himself commands us in the Quran, "O you who believe, when you rise to perform prayer, wash your faces and your hands up to the elbows, wipe your heads, and wash your feet up to the ankles." Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:6. And He tells us, "Indeed, Allah loves those who constantly purify themselves." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:2-2. The Prophet explained that wudu does not just cleanse the body, it erases sins. When a Muslim or believer washes his face in wudu, every sin he committed with his eyes is washed away with the last drop of water. When he washes his hands, every sin he committed with them is washed away with the last drop of water. When he washes his feet, every sin he walked towards is washed away with the last drop of water until he emerges completely purified of sins. Muslim. Imagine that. With every drop of water that falls from your skin, your minor sins are being erased. The sins of the eyes, the sins of the tongue, the sins of the hands and feet, all washed away, leaving you spiritually renewed. The Prophet also said, when a person performs wudu properly and prays, his previous sins are forgiven as long as he does not commit major sins. Muslim. Wudu is not just an obligation, it is a blessing, but sometimes we hesitate. Some of us avoid making wudu because we don't want to ruin our makeup. Some worry about their hair getting wet. Others feel lazy, telling themselves they'll do it later. And for men, it might not be about makeup, but about convenience. Maybe they're in a rush, at work or outside, and the idea of constantly renewing wudu feels difficult. But here's the question. Do we value momentary ease over divine protection? The Prophet told us, whoever performs wudu and does it well, his sins will come out from his body, even from under his nails. Muslim. Even between each prayer, wudu acts as a means of erasing sins. The Prophet said, when one performs wudu properly and offers prayer, it expiates the sins committed between that prayer and the next. Bukhari, Muslim. Think about the impact of that. Every time you renew your wudu for the next salah, you are wiping away the minor sins committed in between. Wudu is not just preparation for prayer, it is an act of worship itself. Wudu is also a source of light in this world and the next. The Prophet said, the adornment of the believer on the day of judgment will reach the places where the water of wudu reached. Muslim. That means the more diligent you are in perfecting your wudu, the more radiant you will be on the day of judgment. Wudu is also a means of protection against shaitan. The Prophet told us, there is no one among you who sleeps in a state of purification except that an angel stays close to him the whole night. And whenever he turns over, the angel says, "O Allah, forgive your servant, for he went to sleep in a state of purity." Ibn Hibban. So even while you sleep, if you go to bed with wudu, you are under Allah's protection. The Prophet also said, renew your wudu often, and Allah will increase your lifespan, and if you can remain in a state of wudu constantly, then do so. Tabarani. It is also a gateway to entering paradise. Whoever performs wudu and does it well, and then raises his eyes to the sky and says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah, wahdahu la sharika lah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. The 8 gates of paradise will be opened for him, and he may enter through whichever one he wishes. Muslim. And for those who struggle, remember, the difficulty you feel in keeping wudu is actually a means of gaining even greater rewards. The prophet said, "Shall I not tell you something by which Allah erases sins and raises ranks?" They said, "Of course, O Messenger of Allah." He said, "Performing wudu thoroughly even in difficult conditions, taking many steps to the masjid and waiting for one prayer after another. This is striving in the way of Allah." Muslim. Yes, sometimes it can feel inconvenient, but what if that inconvenience is actually your path to higher ranks in Jannah? Wudu is a key to barakah in your life. It brings clarity, peace, and spiritual strength. It is a weapon against shaitan, a means of protection against harm, and a source of blessings in ways we may not even realize. May Allah make us among those who guard their wudu, and may He grant us light and protection in this life and the next. Ameen.